Welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. With me, as always, healthy or sickly, happy or pissed, my dedicated friend and co-host, Jim Stamm. Jim, can we report to the folks that you will, in fact, live?
I am alive. I can't hear out of my right ear because of a nasty ear infection. So I'm just gonna filter all your takes through that ear and just talk. So it's gonna work out pretty good this week, I think.
Terrific. So also joining us today in emergency fashion, because Jim's illness caused us to reach out quickly.
Yes.
To a reliable friend of ours. Making his second appearance on the show, Yark, my man. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, guys. Not nearly as sickly as Jim over there. Fast, buddy. Thanks again for having me, guys. It's always a great time. Love talking sports and stuff with you guys anytime.
It worked out. We were due to have you back on anyway. So
you'd worked your way back up to the top of the list already, so it had to happen.
All right.
I mean, before we really get into like the topics we want to break into today, I just have to start with something that's kind of just been itchy with me recently. Watching this team, I predicted before this season started that it would be more fun by the end than it was at the beginning. We'd like the team better at the end than we did in the spring. I think we're still on track for that. Injuries caused us to see a lot of that fun earlier than the team anticipated. And to me, I'm troubled by a general manager that would willingly take steps backward with really no foreseeable merit to many of the decisions. There is no trade market for Yoshi. I said when he came off the IL, if he came off the IL and hit like Henry Aaron for 3 weeks, there is no trade value in Yoshi Tsutsugo because everybody knows what he really is. We've seen it. And Jim and York, before we get into the topics we want to go at, take a swing because this GM, this owner, this coach, they deserve it. Let's give them a good rap in the back of the head real quick before we get going. Jim, how about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's to your one point there when you said you think we're still on track for seeing it be a little more fun. I agree. I get a little nervous just because maybe it's we've taken a little bit of a dip here in that with some of this insistence you're talking about with keeping Tsutsugo in the lineup and of course our buddy Josh Van Meter. Yu Chang got in there a little bit, but then they moved on from him quickly.
Yeah, Jake Bereznik. The list goes on and on.
Yes. I think we're going to get back to it. My fear is that this trade deadline comes and goes, and nothing has changed on that front, and these two guys are still where they're at and still playing. You know, if you wanted to make the case that, and I don't even agree with this, okay, we're just not going to have him start anymore. We're still going to let him be on the team or be part of the bench or something like that. I want to wash my hands completely.
Me too.
My fear is that
they don't wash their hands completely.
Trade deadline comes and goes, and not only are they still on the team, or one of them is that they're still playing.
My fear is that if they do it the day after the trade deadline, all it does is confirm the utter stupidity that they had thinking that there was a trade market for these guys.
Definitely.
That's the kind of thing I'm not going to sit here and just turn a blind eye to. I mean, like, I'm sorry. This GM, I think his overall plan is great. I like what he's doing. I love how the system's coming together. I enjoy the talent coming up. I'm anxious to see how it plays out. I still don't know if they can develop. We'll see. But Don't actively do stupid things on purpose in the middle of the season and expect me to swallow it. You
No,
have better options. You just sent down a triple frickin' A. And you can't tell me it had to happen. Yark, blast him.
Well, I got to say, man, this guy, he has the patience of Job because he will sit there and watch this and watch this and watch this. And I don't know what. I mean, I know why he wanted Yoshi in the beginning, but honestly, and we all saw it.
Same.
And who knows if he was even really hurt.
Same, and I don't dislike taking a swing.
Right. But
Unlike
you got to see it at this point. But he does. He has and he does this with everything. He's done this with his whole like you guys were talking the other day about the pitching, how he slow played that, and he slow played the hitters the same, like the young guys, Castillo and Chavez, just strictly platooning, working them in here and there, not starting them on days we thought they should have been up and playing. He just slow plays everything, like everything. And these guys, I can't believe he could even think that there's a trade market. I cannot believe that no one in the right mind thinks that.
Do we buy that? I don't know that I would say that it's just hard to kill time in a 162 game season, and they are trying to just buy as much time as they can. They have not been interested in the wins and losses this year, and they are just pushing things off as far as they can until they feel they have to do something.
Yeah,
and it's 5-6 months of a season.
Part of the reason that you hear it get tossed about, I mean, Dejan does it a lot. I've seen it some other places, talking about, oh, well, now they're going for Super 2 for Jack Sawinski. Man, I don't think so. I don't think so. You don't do that on a double-A call-up. Like, I just don't think so. I think you do that on a very special talent, like O'Neal Cruz. Okay, I get it. Whatever, I get it. It sucks. Wish didn't happen. But I get it. I don't think that's what's going on with guys like Jack Sawinski. I'm sorry. I just can't buy that.
And Cal wasn't hitting either, and he still really isn't. So, and he got sent back down and bounced. I know they're not really looking at him more as a Super 2 type person, but I mean, these guys are young. They came up, they had their shot, they showed some flashes. I mean, Jack showed great power, and he took some really great at bats, which is why I don't get all the strikeouts and how he was like 0 for 32 or whatever down the stretch.
Yeah, but it seemed more like, Jim, it seemed more like they could have just said to Jack, hey, like in the bottom of the ninth when you're standing there and you waste 15 pitches waiting for that one that you can make a big dramatic swing on, do that every at-bat. And it seems like to me training's done. Because that's what happened with that kid. When he focused, man, he could do it.
Yeah, I don't think it was fair to Jack Sawinski, and people are going to point to, well, he was 0 for 29. Well, yeah, but he had, up to that point, handled himself pretty nicely in Major League Baseball.
He had also already been taught that it didn't matter if he had bad stretches.
Yeah. And
keep with your process, right?
It's like as soon as they get an excuse, man, will they jump all over it. Now, I don't know if that's because of Super 2. I doubt it with Jack Sawinski.
We know what it was. It was Ben Gamble and Jake Marinzik got healthy. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So
and
there's
Greg
a lot
Allen got healthy.
Look, we've talked about there are games within the game, and they've got a lot of time and a lot of innings to fill and a lot of games in a season where they have out and out declared it doesn't matter to anyone that will listen or pay attention. And so they're just using it at their whim with each player the way they choose to do it.
I mean, we're going to take a quick break.
It's frustrating as hell, by the way.
It really is. We're going to take a quick break here. I'm sorry for getting dark at the beginning of the show, but I think it was important. It was important to make sure that we kind of voiced it didn't have to be this way at all.
No,
and I'm just getting out in front of it. I'm going to call you on it when you cut these guys the day after. I'm going to call you on it if you don't cut these guys the day after. You have boxed yourself into being stupid for this trade deadline is what you've done.
And I think the fan base is really waiting to see this last little week here before they completely blow their tops. So
Absolutely.
that alone will be worth the price of admission to see how that part goes.
Well, this first part was really fun. So when we come back, why don't we touch on something even more touchy than that? Somebody who's becoming he who can't be named, especially if you're going to dare to criticize or think about him at all.
Oh,
Brian Hayes.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
All right, and we're back. Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports. Yark and Jim, Gary with you, and we are going to discuss not a bad week of baseball, but one player in particular we need to discuss is Brian Hayes. We rarely talk about him because honestly, he's so far down the list of Pirates problems that he just gets lost in the shuffle. This isn't a bad player. And folks, even if what we're watching is his top of the mountain, this contract is a song. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but his 2021 and 2022 look eerily similar. Let me read you some stats for comparison to get our conversation started here. Games in 2021, 96. He's up to 90 this year. So you can see they compare pretty favorably. Average last year, 257. Average this year, 251. OPS, 689. OPS this year, 676. Home runs, 5 last year, 4 this year. Doubles, 2017.
keep going. They're eerily similar.
They're eerily similar. I mean,
we're talking 362 at bats. Yeah, I mean, this is a good sample size. 343 at bats this year.
Yeah. I mean, so first of all, largely, isn't this kind of what Key was on his way up through the system too, Yark?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I hate to say because I mean I love the guy. I love the guy as a player. Now, I mean, he hasn't hit as well as we would like, but that's what I thought he was going to be, and to the point where I was thinking that they should have traded him while his value was skyrocketed, like he was whatever top 20 prospect or was even top. Did he make top 10 maybe?
He was up there.
Yeah, I mean, it was close.
And I got into so many arguments, and I'm like, well, I'd rather see a little bit more power from my third baseman. I mean, now I think it's going to work out because he hits the ball way too hard, you know, and he's athletic. He has speed. He's going to figure it out to a point where the bat's going to play for his defense at least in the least. But I mean,
this is a player that's already racked up a 3.2 WAR this year.
Yeah, it's just
he's got a 7.4 career WAR. Yeah, this guy's value is not in dispute. This contract was a good contract.
He's already.
This isn't a superstar, right?
He's already paid for it, like the first 3-4 years of it in value. You know.
Yeah. There's a uniqueness to it that it doesn't really apply to a lot of guys around the league on how you have to look at him and how you have to value things. It's just, that when we were talking, Gary and I have been sitting on this topic for a couple weeks and thought, this is the perfect time to talk about it. And, I think, the thing is now, I think we have the baseline and he's still going to figure some things out. He still hits the ball hard the other way. I think there's more there. Now, that being said, he has a batting average against balls in play that is for his career a little bit higher than I think even the average in baseball. So it's not like he's had terrible luck there either. Right. So he's just got to improve on some things. He's got to work on driving the ball. He's got to be able to pull the ball a little bit. And I think he'll get there. It's just if fans are expecting a huge jump offensively now, I think there's enough on paper to say, you might want to reset and recalibrate those expectations.
I mean, Yark, is it fair to say Brian, let's say he like came up and this team's already stacked, right?
Yeah.
He's probably a 6 or 7 hitter.
Oh, right.
He's doing pretty well, popping a couple home runs, hitting some doubles. He's pretty fast.
Right.
Makes good contact, hits the ball the other way, situational hitter.
That's something it seems like he hasn't done as much of late, though. Going the other, when he used to go hard the other way, that's when you could tell he was like really starting to get it.
Right. But then he loses pull completely.
Right.
When he starts to focus on it too much. And when he loses pull, I mean, at PNC Park, for a right-handed hitter, you lose power potential too.
Right.
If you don't pull them down the line, you're not going to get this 5 to 6 TP home runs that you should get every year as a righty in PNC. Like even that sprung Kevin Newman to a 10 home run season.
Right.
Well, that's the kind of sneaky power that we talk about. That's why double power translates sometimes to ballparks. But it's not like I'm saying he's a bad player, but I just think when this team fleshes out, Brian Hayes is not going to be hitting 1, 2, or 3 in my mind. I mean, that's where they're sticking him right now, but I just don't
really turns it around. So I mean, he'd really have to make some changes. So what I did see, like in his splits, because I was looking, he has been terrible against righties, but similarly for his career. And I was seeing that they maybe he was seeing more fastballs last year.
Yeah,
and more like I seem like maybe he's chasing that slider. And I keep going back to what Haynes and maybe the system as a whole is preaching, where somebody said the other day that they want hard contact, but they want you to damage the ball. So are these guys just all swinging out of their shoes, and that's why the numbers are going this way? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean we probably could touch on that subject as well, like the overall hitting philosophy of the team. I think that's best saved for its own segment.
Yeah.
But I mean,
there's a lot to it for sure.
I probably could have vented on that in the opening segment instead of what I did. But for Hayes himself, he's been around long enough to know himself, and let's not pretend that he doesn't have most of his hitting acumen from his lineage and who's coached him all of his life. It's just you're not going to teach him things he doesn't know, basically, at this point. I just think he's a guy that focuses on something and wants to perfect it and loses sight of other things. When you start focusing on poking the ball the other way constantly because that's where you're having the most success on hard contact, you completely lose the pull side. It's not even about shifting anymore. It's about the way they pitch you. If they know you're going to go away, they're going to bust you inside.
And you got to be real careful with a guy with a swing like that too, because you don't want to take away the thing that he does exceptionally well when he is hitting, which is, hitting the ball, being able to take it the other way, being able to drive it. I mean, how many guys in this league do we watch that can never do that? They can never master that. He has that part. Right. So you don't want to screw that up. But
he reminds me of Kutch. Like for him to be successful, he has to hit the way Kutch did. Now, Kutch had more power, and Kutch had
early on. He wasn't a big power hitter early, so
that's very true. Until he learned how to continue through the ball and take advantage of that. Right along the Clemente wall, right center field gap is where he was getting some of his power shots from, because he never turned into that big pull hitter either.
No.
So maybe that's kind of the way Hayes needs to model his swing. But you got to be able to do it a little. You have to be able to do it a little, or they just shift everything in the outfield over on you, and then nothing falls. And
I mean, you certainly don't want him starting to try to pull and just lazy fly outs to left center in PNC Park. I mean, that's a killer, But at the same time, you're looking at a guy, and York, you mentioned this briefly, and if you really start to dive in the numbers, it gets very concerning. You're talking about a guy with an OPS against right-handers in the 580s. I mean, you just can't have that. He's not batting where he should in the lineup, but this is the lineup we have right now. Ideally, like Gary said, I think I see him as more of like unless there is a big jump here or a substantial one, I think I see him as like a six hitter. Um, and
Probably a
that's not
damn
a
good six hitter.
yeah, and that's not a knock against him. And and
No,
and,
it's
and I
it's
know
not at all. It should be indicative of a team that is getting good because
right.
you're no longer forcing guys. Like, to be blunt, I'm not. I don't have to just stop on him. Brian Reynolds might not be the two hitter. Like,
Right.
come time for this team to actually be good.
A
Uh,
lot of guys batting out of where they should be if it was a better lineup right now, quite frankly.
right. I mean, and thank our lucky stars that a certain Twitter handle has deactivated for this conversation because we would probably be in some trouble, Jim.
I've heard he's back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, then,
It was a brief
everybody look out.
hiatus.
I mean, Yark, I apologize for pulling you into this caustic situation.
I'm good.
You are about to get attacked by the Hayes family.
That's okay. I think
I mean, it's an Ike Turner situation, where they just want to beat on you and not have any repercussions. But I'm glad that somebody stood up to them. Shout out to Mitchell because good
Yeah,
for you, bro. For
yeah.
real, somebody had to do it.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked when I seen it. I just happened to scroll through and see. I said, "Whoa, did you get in the?"
It's just ridiculous. I just think to myself, like, I can't imagine how Cabrian would feel about that. I can't imagine that he's back. He's rooting that on. I can't imagine he's happy about it. I bet he just doesn't even know it's happening.
Right.
J-
Yeah.
And then
just
somebody at the Pirates is like, "Hey, are you seeing this?" And deactivation. Like,
That's probably what happened.
and just quick,
Wow.
just a quick recap for all the fortunate souls that aren't on Twitter like us, that still have some of their sanity. Um, the Hayes family does not take kindly to criticism of Cabrian Hayes. Um, the
or
Cabri-
evaluation.
yes, uh, they are an equal opportunity basher. They will come after fans. They will go after coaches, just about criticizing things, or
General
maybe
managers,
general manager, maybe even a little dig at a player or two. Um,
potentially.
yes, it has ventured into that territory too. So I don't want people thinking this is some big segment about it's our turn to, you know, kick Cabrian Hayes. I want to make it clear. Cabrian Hayes is a heck of a ball player. I'm glad we have him. He's going to be important to everything the Pirates do. I think he's going to get better. So please, please don't go down that road with me, with Gary, or Yark. Just don't do it because it's not going to go well on Twitter after this. I can promise you if you go there.
Right. Let's keep our Twitter battles to things that didn't actually happen, like being blocked by Cody with the K finally, without even having to fire a
Oh,
shot.
thank God. Thank God. I beg for that every day. I beg for
I didn't
Penn's
even do
Chronicles to
anything
block
today. It
me.
was great.
Yeah. But
But
but no, like let's get back to this. Let's get back to this for a second. This is not just some fans who got caught the brunt of Brian Hayes' brother or their father or his father criticizing them. This is can be a potential issue. I don't think players would appreciate seeing something like that on social media. I can't imagine the Pirates are thrilled with a player's family being this outspoken on social media. And I got to tell you, be glad that it's Pittsburgh. Because if it wasn't Pittsburgh and this was New York, this would be stuff that would get on the back page about this kind of nonsense.
absolutely.
So
And these
so
people that
knock
run
it
around,
off.
the people that want to run around and say that he sucks because he only has 4 home runs and not factor anything else in either. Say,
Yeah.
Right.
oh, he's stealing money. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Colton Wong makes as much as he does next year.
Right.
Colton Wong.
Yeah. Right.
Which would you rather have?
Right.
I'd rather have Brian Hayes. And if you
And what
honestly
about
say
the next
Colton
guy
Wong,
sitting there when you're beating them up after 2 months of the contract? You know what I mean? Like, hey, no wonder Reynolds or Cruz or
right,
the next guy doesn't want to sign here. You know?
right. And I mean, before we dive in on the trade deadline, because we do got to talk about that a little bit, we should throw out a congrats to Blair and Brian on the birth of their baby brother for Reese. And they're good people, folks. And all baseball aside, having a happy family is the best thing Brian will ever produce. So congratulations,
Absolutely.
and I'm
Yes,
very happy.
Congrats.
Um,
absolutely. And um, take as much time as you need, man.
Yeah.
It's your family. The baseball stuff.
Yep.
We all take it very too seriously at times. Doesn't matter. Just hey, whatever you need, bud.
so
Absolutely.
we should probably look at trades. Everybody wants to talk about it. Trade deadline's
Sure.
coming up, right? Let's start with the obvious because we've already made one. We got Vogie for Colin Holderman from the Mets. And our buddy Craig put out a podcast on Wednesday where he and Chris suggested Colin Holderman might be somebody you want to think about as a starter
Yeah, I heard that.
because that's what he was.
Oof.
And it might be a sneaky way to steal a starter. What do you guys think of that?
York, go
I
ahead.
hadn't considered that.
I hadn't considered it either when I heard him say it, and I immediately went to. I don't think that's where he's at in his career. He's probably pumping it up to 100 because he's in the short burst, and his future is in the Pirates bullpen. From what I think, they put him down there so they didn't have to cut somebody, basically.
Yeah,
So
I'd buy into it more if they didn't openly say that he was going to be here soon. You know, so,
Yeah. Yeah, and if he's going to be here soon, there's only one way that can happen. He's not
right.
built
even.
So what do you
Yeah.
think of the deal? I mean, I thought not bad. I mean, like probably better than I thought they'd do. I thought they'd get a good AA prospect for him, something like that.
I obviously the name came across. I had to go do the research. Anybody that sits there and says, "Oh, yeah, I knew right away about this guy," come on now, they're lying to you. So after I looked, I thought they did pretty good. You're talking a major league arm. He has acquitted himself nicely since being in the majors this year.
Full complement of
Um,
control.
yeah, and I think he's 26. So
Mm-hmm.
again, we're not talking about a 29-year-old guy here that's had some ups and downs. He seems to be healthy. He's a big old guy, can pump it about 100. I see him entirely used in the bullpen at the major league level. And I got to look, I'm not a big rah-rah bench or anything guy, but I got to hand it to him here. It's hard to get major league pitching back on a team
From a contender
that
too.
is contending. So just even being able to do that, speaks to me that I think they did okay.
All right, I will credit GM Ben Charrington half a um oh I'll give him half of a Yoshi for that. As far as credit to cancel out the evil from the first segment.
right.
So what do you think for real, Colin Holderman? I thought he was a pretty interesting pickup. He can pump it up there. He's got potential closer on him.
I see like Bednar vibes. When they traded for Bednar, nobody really thought of it. He had very limited major league experience, but he had done pretty well.
Right.
Throws hard, has some decent like secondary pitch, and this kid's just bigger and throws harder. I mean, I feel like he's somebody you could start to work right in towards the back of the bullpen almost immediately here. And if you do trade Bednar, it gives you another arm to
Yeah,
fill in.
I think that's probably, we don't know honestly, but I think he's pretty good. I actually think both teams are going to be happy with this deal. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I think Bogey is going to help them in certain ways that they really need. To be
Well,
honest,
do we want to jump into the whole not getting rid of guys thing here, or do we want to do that in a little bit? It doesn't
I
matter to
think
me. I just
overall because everybody else is the kind of scrap iron that we're talking about. You got Quintana and you got Gamel, you got Marisnik, which ain't going to happen because he's injured. You got, I wouldn't trade Greg Allen. I can't see any kind of market for him, right?
no.
So I mean, maybe Kevin Newman. I guess people are just going to get mad because trade is a bad buzzword now. But
Well, they've
you
been beat
want
to death
these
with
guys,
it in
right?
Pittsburgh.
I mean, that's why they're here, is to be
Yeah.
moved. Now, what's really kind of gotten me, Jim, and I've never understood this, is why people think by not trading Quintana, it increases their chances of extending Quintana, like for another couple of years. If they don't trade Quintana, it means nobody really wanted him enough to bother giving them anything of value. And they just held on to him and felt it was more worthy to use up the innings he would give them. That doesn't mean like they have some kind of inside track to re-sign him. That's not how this works. I mean, like, I guess they have negotiation rights until he becomes a free agent, but
Right.
how
Well,
often
you'd
do you
cert
see teams signing people during the World Series? Not very often.
no, and I mean, the Pirates. I mean, they'd be silly to. I mean, you want to let this if you're going to keep him, because you don't feel it's worth enough to move him. You don't get a return. That's fine. But you're going to want to see him pitch all year before you would even entertain. I mean, like, let's see if he stays healthy.
Right.
I mean, like, be crazy to think about anything like that. So, whether it's Quintana, whether it's Vogelback, um, I understand. I understand that people are tired of moving guys out and trying to get a return to help for the future. But these aren't the guys that I would put my stake in the ground on. This is enough is enough. You look at a Vogelback, and he had largely overperformed in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So he's exactly the type of guy you'd want to move at that time and then hold on to. I could see if he had been with the Pirates needing the power that they need and need to keep in the lineup. I could see if this was his track record coming in,
Right.
that you'd want to hang on to him.
We
You would have
wouldn't have
had him
been
for
here
another. Yeah, you
if that
had.
was his track record coming in.
It's exactly right. But let's just throw that part out of the equation and say you somehow did have him, and you've got him for an option for another year. I could see that. But these are the type of guys that I can't imagine losing sleep over. I don't know. What do you guys think? I understand people are tired of it. I get that totally.
I think people are tired of it, but I also think that you can't look at a team that, if they're lucky, are going to somehow muster together 65 to 70 wins this year and want to try to keep that together. Like, that's not something to try to glue together. That's the leg lamp from Christmas Story. It's done. Bury it in the backyard. Move on. Play taps if you must. But it's time to get better players in here. And you have to make room for better players. So there's a reason none of these guys are signed, like, long term. I
Yeah.
wish they would extend somebody like Gamble, but like, I wish they would extend somebody like Quintana. But next year, don't you want them to get somebody better than Quintana? I do. Like, I want somebody that I know is going to be good. I don't want somebody that I think might be. I don't want to be pleasantly surprised. I want to be sure. Get me somebody better.
It's funny you mentioned that. I think I responded to somebody with saying, like, I don't want to be satisfied with a Vogelback and a Quintana. I'd like to get. I'd like to think we can do a little better than that, or we should be able to. Whether they do it or not, that's another topic. But to me, that's not enough anyway.
Yeah, there's none of these
So
guys that I would be
keep going.
trying. There's none of these guys I would be trying to hold on to. Like, even Chris Stratton, York, he's a guy that he's been better here than people want to pretend right now, because he's having a meh season. And that's where I'll put it, really. It's a meh season. It's not bad. It's not good.
No.
It's meh. And this dude they just got, Holderman, his spin rates and extra velocity, he is Stratton. That's what he could be. So great. If they trade him, I'm not going to cry just because he has another year of control. If he does well,
they can get
get bad.
they can get
replaced
anything for him. I'll be happy.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you think about things like that? I mean, why do people want to hold on to these guys so much? I mean, what have they given them that?
And is there anybody that you would want to hold on to?
Well, I've been kind of vocal about you don't have like people will insist that you had to trade Quintana, and my thing is one, I think he does help the younger kids a little bit, and having some
Good
veterans
point.
around even to fill in for the rest of the season could help. You know, getting their brains beat in every night and not having a vet to talk to or explain like, hey man, you still got to get up and do this and do
Right.
your routines and this and that. I think that has value, and I don't think the return for any of these guys is going to be really anything spectacular. So I weigh it that way. And in the innings for Quintana, I think that they might be better served just to use him, just to soak some up. Because between guys being on short leashes as far as their innings, or uh, first inning the other day, I seen people saying Bryce Wilson isn't a starter. He should never start again. This and that, and then he went 5 innings scoreless. After that first inning. I mean, is that what you want? More Bryce Wilson giving up 7 runs in an inning all year, and
That's
whoever
what
else?
you're going to get, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
But yeah, I hear what you're saying, and the veteran aspect of it. Yeah, I agree.
I
I
think
want
that's a
somebody to
good that
gamble for the same reason.
yeah, I think that to me is bigger than even the innings pitched. I mean, I understand that line of thinking, and I can see why someone would say that, but losing is losing to me. They're losing this year. We know this. Will it be ugly and hard to watch? Yes, but I think we're all kind of used to that. So, um, but as far as the veteran presence of guys like Quintana and Gamble, I don't like to go to that a lot, but I think in this situation with those two guys, I think it's a very valid point that they do provide some of that type of leadership.
They have to provide it because they don't have it, and they don't have it in the coaching staff.
yeah.
Like Oscar Marine, he may very well prove himself. I actually think overall, I'd have to say the pitching staff has kind of turned around this year. I think it's probably outperformed what it should on paper. So I'm not gonna give him a total reprieve and say he's the guy for the next 10 years, but okay, he's done something this year. I kept saying, what has he done? He's done this year. But you
Yeah,
know
and
what
we
he
can
didn't?
point to a couple people
He didn't
that he
pitch in the
has
major.
helped. No,
And I'm not saying that your pitching coach has to, but somebody has to. And they don't have anybody like that to talk to at all.
No,
You're right. And because we just even discussed like one of the guys we'd probably trade is Chris Stratton.
right.
Well, shit.
There's nobody. Well, I guess. Yeah, even those guys are kind of young, Bede and Bambuelos, and you think that they're vets, but they're not really vets.
Right.
not yeah.
They're not successful vets anyway.
No,
And that,
those are guys still trying to get their footing like anybody right
Yeah,
now.
right. So, I mean, you do worry about them not having anybody like that to turn to, and maybe that is a consideration. Maybe that's why we're not hearing much. Really, I mean, I can't imagine somebody's not going to want to snap up a lefty that has looked pretty quality this year. So for me, it's unfathomable they keep him. But I mean, there's got to be like a decent piece back, right? Or else, what's the point? Just
well,
keep him.
that's
He
what I'm
might
saying.
help the team more. That's where you got to land, right? I mean, is it going to help or is it not? So, when we come back, let's talk a little bit about the overall team, and then let's get to call your shot. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I think we should talk a little more about the trade deadline. It's kind of the elephant in the room. And it's also the biggest chance for the majority of the last segment of this podcast to be a waste of time. So I mean, in all sincerity, let's talk the big scene. Let's not talk Pirates because, to be blunt, this was never going to be an interesting trade deadline for the Pirates. It wasn't. And I say that with the full knowledge that Brian Reynolds is getting traded. All of you who tweeted me that, and I get it. But the bigger
on the
scene,
outside shot that doesn't happen. Right?
Absolutely. The bigger scene really is. Yeah, I saw somebody tweet it out today, like my friend's friend of a friend who used to be friends with Reynolds, and it's like, oh my god,
my father's brother's sister's uncle's
Right.
cousin's nephew's roommate.
It's so ridiculous. It's like I can get tickets to any Steeler game I want. My brother used to cut grass for Johnny. Oh, come on. Anyways, we should talk about the big scene and really what we think is holding it up. I haven't seen very many moves. I mean, even the rumor mills are kind of quiet. Obviously, Juan Soto's dominating the headlines. There's been a couple credible offers out there. Apparently, one of them incredible by the San Diego Padres. If they actually swing that, unreal amount of talent going back to Washington for that. And God help the Padres GM if they manage to extend it.
Right?
Oof.
Can I
Are you
just throw
holding
some?
up the whole market though? I don't think so.
No, but before we go past Juan Soto, let me just throw this out there. It's just a simple question: is Juan Soto actually too good for his own good for this whole thing, like to even happen? Like it's made it so hard to quantify, and it's left so few teams involved, right?
I mean, in baseball, there's going to be very few teams involved when you're talking about somebody that's going to get a $500 million contract.
Yeah,
I
but even
just,
some teams are like that you normally might be in there are like, nope, I think it's too rich for our blood. Like it's just such uncharted territory.
Yeah.
it really is crazy. And Yark, you like to mess around with these trade values and everything. I'm sure you saw what the Padres were offering.
Yeah.
Insane, absolutely insane.
It's great. I don't know. I mean, if there's a guy worth it right now, it's that guy. You know what I mean? Or maybe Julio now. But oof, I don't know. But for me, I think Boris is taking him to free agency. There's no extension. I can't see
I
any
think
extension.
I think he would for some of his favored teams. Like I think the Dodgers could get it done.
Maybe. And you know what? They got Trey Turner coming off the books for next year.
And the
David
only
Price
reason I
might
say
be off the
that is
books.
the Dodgers have the prospect depth to do it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they have the major league depth to do it. And well, to be honest, they have the major league depth to do it. They could easily do that. They could even
Embarrassment of riches.
Oh my
even
god!
trade someone straight out of their rotation.
Right.
They really could. And it's insane. But and they could pay the $500 million and he'd take that because that's all he wants is the record.
Right.
So it's to me that situation gets boring as soon as you realize it's the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And that's just really it's the
Yeah,
Dodgers or the Yankees, whichever
yeah.
one wants them worse. And
And you almost root for it in a way just to say, let's just get as dumb as we possibly can in baseball.
right,
So we can just make a mockery of the system. But he's for me, he's one of the best right-handed hitters I've ever seen. I mean, or left-handed hitters I've ever seen. I
it's
mean,
crazy. And he's so patient. He dominates that strike zone. Like he knows that strike zone like Daniel Vogelback. But well, in all
no,
sincerity,
I know.
Daniel Vogelback is elite when it comes to understanding the strike zone, despite his arguments.
He's so fun to watch. Ugh.
But okay, but Juan Soto knows the strike zone like that. But imagine that with a guy who can do damage in every quadrant of the strike zone.
Yeah, it's Ted Williams-esque in a way,
It really
with
is.
that kind of eye as well. And then like I love the fact that and this wasn't supposed to turn into a Juan Soto show, so I'm sorry.
Well, he
But
might be as good as Termar Johnson, Jim. I mean,
Maybe.
but
Maybe.
for the guy's not the guy's not even a home run hitter, and he's so good. He just shows up to the All-Star game and is like, "What do I have to do? What do I have to do? This derby thing? Oh, hit home runs? Yeah, I'll do that." And it just beats everybody. Like, my goodness, he's so stinking good. I'll shut up about him.
He's a crazy good player, and I did breathe a sigh of relief when I saw that the Cardinals dipped out.
Yeah.
Because the Cardinals were a sneaky team that I thought could have possibly done it.
Definitely.
And I mean both legs of that marathon too. So
definitely.
So I was a little bit afraid of that. Regardless, on the pitching side of things in the trade market, I mean, to me, it's Luis Castillo holding this thing up. I think he's holding up a whole lot of moves, and there's got to be a lot of players involved for that, because almost everybody who's even smelling being in it thinks they can go and get a pitcher like that. I mean, and you're not talking about a Juan Soto package here. It'll be good, but it's not going to be like that.
Yeah, York, what do you? I mean, you like we talked about before. You like the trade these scenarios. And what do you see someone needing to get a Castillo, or where do you think, is he the one that's holding this up?
I mean, I think the major players are looking for him because they're not looking for a Quintana to start, because they want to replace their 1, 2, or 3 guy. You know what I mean? They're not looking to just, some teams are looking to just get a back end guy to get them down the stretch. Right. So they might be willing to get a Quintana or someone similar.
Seems like the Pirates are looking for a Quintana. Like, think back to J Happ.
Exactly, yeah.
Quite honestly, they are the ones that go out and get the Vogelbacks and the Quintanas as like the additions.
Yeah.
Right. So regardless, without bashing our own team, let's move forward. Castillo, to me, is holding it up. I think he's probably the best one available. He's probably the most sure thing available. He's playoff tested. I think there's just a lot of people that probably really would like to have him as part of their run. But after that, man, I don't know. It seems like we're going to have a free-for-all like on Monday, doesn't it? Like, it really does.
It's going to be wild, man. And people keep saying there's a slow market or a light market on starting pitching, but if you start going through these losing teams, they have 3 starting pitchers on every one of their rosters that could go.
Yeah.
I was even looking at we'll get into it in the next thing, but with the Reds and the Cubs, it's just, there's so many guys that could just go.
I think Yark just decided when it was time for Call Your Shot, so let's go ahead and do it right here, right now. Let's take a quick second and play the intro. All right, so Call Your Shot. I'm going to read it this week because we're starting to accept them that way as well. I'm trying to broaden the horizons for people that just are not going to get on board with recording themselves.
So afraid to show their faces. We do it.
Get it. But, I want to
banned yet.
I want to let as many people participate as possible. So this one comes from Robert Bishop, and he says, "Will our Buccos finish last in the Central?" Let's be as straightforward as we can. I mean, to me, no. I think they're going to finish third. And I know that seems crazy right now, looking at the lineups they're pumping out there daily. But I think the Pirates lineup is going to look better after the trade deadline. And I think that the Reds and Cubs are going to take drastic steps back because of who they're trading. And that's what you really have to look at this time of year. And I wish I could say that I was guessing, because maybe it would be more entertaining for me to watch Major League Baseball if I was guessing about who they were going to move and who they weren't. Like, it seemed like Greg Brown was caught off guard that Wilson Contreras might be moved. I mean, that's insane. And Jay Happ too, or Ian Happ. What's going on?
As he's pumping up Van Meter every night, like,
what in the world? What's the market is for Van Meter?
Let me just say, we're a minute into the telecast the other day, and Greg Brown starts into about Van Meter, and now this might be, him. This is him probably going to be getting moved, and I'm like, can we
literally
just
talk
not?
About him being showcased? He
Like,
did.
Greg, I just sat down with my pretzel twists. Can we not? Can I just enjoy these before you get me all cranky? But yeah.
All right,
So
so derailed. Are the Bucks going to finish last in the Central? Do you got to answer the question?
You go ahead, Jim.
all right. No, they are not going to be last. And if you just simply take Castillo off the Reds and you take Contreras and Happ off of the Cubs, I think right there is enough to outplay them down the stretch. They're already not good baseball teams, and I'm probably forgetting a name or two on each of those teams, and the Pirates aren't going to look a whole lot different.
Right.
So for me, I don't see it. Would a 10-game losing streak in there or a 9-game losing streak in there like they did, here not too long ago, put that in jeopardy? Yeah, because there's not a ton of games left. But it would have to be something like that would have to happen for them to finish last, in my opinion. York, what do you say?
I mean, I'm kind of right on board with you guys. I mean, there would be so many guys traded off those teams, like Brandon Drury, Tommy
Oh,
Pham.
yeah.
I don't know if he's healthy. Tommy
Yeah.
Pham, some of these other Tyler Molly, he could go. There's people been interested in
Yeah,
him.
they just rushed him back from the IL to get a game and just make himself available, right?
Right.
They were trying to trade him before the season started, so
You don't think so? You don't think so
No, I
either?
don't. And even like in the calendar year, the Cubs are the worst out of the three of them. They have a 386 winning percentage in the last calendar year. They're the worst team out of those three. And then
Okay.
it's the Pirates. And then the Reds actually weren't terrible down the stretch last year. They were 32-30, but they've been.
I got to tell you what's really disheartening as a Pirate fan, because I can sit here and I can tell you I don't think they're going to finish last in the Central. I can also tell you I don't really give a crap because they're not going to finish first.
Yeah.
But
I think people just want to see third. They
well,
just like that will help somehow
what
if they
sucks
see
though?
third.
What sucks though, and you guys might disagree, because it almost pisses me off. The Cubs and the Reds can both put out a lineup that I like a whole hell of a lot more, even after the trade deadline. And that sucks. Because I mean, I think our pitching staff is pretty decent, right now. I do. But the lumber company is what Pittsburgh Pirates baseball has been. That's what I want it to be. I want to see hitters.
It's
a
been
lot more
rough.
fun that way.
It's been
I want
rough
to see
looking at that
hitters.
lineup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the more I watch this team and the more I watch the way they're coached, the more I realize they're not cultivating hitters. They're cultivating people that are gonna run into one every so often. We're gonna have bursts of offense, and they're gonna put up crooked numbers every once in a while. They could be a decent team if they would quit giving up crooked numbers every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's but those lineups, they're still going to be more impressive, I think, than ours. They have no pitching, and the pitching they do have is really young pitching.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get mad that Hunter Green isn't that great right now.
I'm happy when any Red does what terribly. Honestly, if as long as the Pirates finish ahead of them from now till eternity, I'll be a little bit satisfied.
Yeah,
And the Reds forever.
Long and short of it, I don't think any of us think they're going to finish last, but it also is kind of like celebrating coming in second.
Yeah.
And something that there's only two of you running in, like
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually a good point, Gary. But I look at it this way too. I don't care what really happens as long as Wilson Contreras gets the hell out of this division.
Oh,
I cannot stomach. Come on, let's talk about it just for a second.
No, go ahead.
I cannot stomach that dude, and I really, if nobody knows what happened the other day, is he essentially Bryce Wilson threw a pitch inside. He took exception to it, which it was not even that egregious, and it was at the belt, for God's sakes. And then he grounds out. He makes a point to run past Bryce Wilson, step on the pitcher's mound. I don't know if he brushed Bryce Wilson, So, anyways, just to get people up to date in case you didn't see, it's just his latest. You know,
But he's always doing something.
he's always
He's
always
always
doing
running
something.
the gap. He's always, yeah. And
But man, I wanted to put
he's
one in his ear after that.
he's one of those guys where he's Tom Wilson. If he's on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, you hate him. And the thing is, I don't care about the showboating stuff at all. That doesn't even move the needle for me. I just don't like the guys that have to take offense to everything. Like I even got irritated with Vogelback at some point. Like you turning around barking with the umpire. It was cute at first, okay, but like you do it 10, 15 times in a game, it's not cute to you or the umps, and I can't even imagine, an umpire not being affected by it after a while. Like, like I'd almost be like, that's going to be a strike all night now, big boy. Like shut up.
It,
Like,
I agree with you. I think Vogelback, it started to become a little tiresome to me. Um, it wasn't anything that was becoming a huge deal, but constantly into something, yapping, some type of little thing. Yeah, I could do with that. I think it hurts you more than it helps you, but that's just his personality too. So
yeah, but I'm comparing it to Contreras because I'm
yeah,
sure other fan bases, the Arc, they watch somebody like Vogelback and they're screaming at their TV, "Why? It was a strike! Stop turning around and complaining, Tubby." But like Wilson Contreras, we watch him and this dude looks like he's hard done by no matter what happens. Foul one off his foot, he looks at the pitcher like he did it intentionally.
yeah.
Like it's somebody swings their bat and nicks his glove on the backswing. Oh, you definitely were trying to club me.
I
Like
will I will
everything
say
is
what
Miles Garrett.
I was sitting there trying to gauge the appropriate response to what he did, and the Pirates turned out didn't do anything. And I'm not a big unwritten rules guy, but I really did think he basically gave the Pirates and Bryce Wilson a huge middle finger there. I mean, to seek out the mound, to step on it, and to kind of brush him, that's a little too much for me. I
Right.
think you have to do something there. I wonder if it will come up in another series
He's not going to be there.
He
or
won't be
maybe
there.
on another team.
It shouldn't happen. Um,
Ugh.
he's been hit 18 times this year. I mean, like
Well,
he's
he doesn't
leading the
care.
league by a country mile in hit
Oh,
by
and
pitchers.
you got to love guys that get hit all the time.
Well,
That
he's
get
either
back
getting
up
hit
and
because
brush
he's
back.
really hittable, just like
Right.
you said a long time ago, Bob Nutting had a punchable face, Jim. Well, Wilson Contreras
I
has
still think
hittable
he
knuckles.
does.
Like
What's that?
he has hittable knuckles. You just want to like aim for his hands because, first of all, they're always in the strike zone.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard not to hit some guys. Anthony Rizzo comes to mind, just
Hey,
hanging on the plate.
put
We
that
might have another one named Henry Davis that likes to hang over the plate a lot.
Mm.
listen, man, you put that elbow guard on, you can sit there like Barry Bonds with a robotic arm looking thing, and I mean, you don't have to move. It doesn't hurt. You catch that thing right there. It's no big deal. It's a free base.
Absolutely. Guys, great talk. And honestly, Robert Bishop, good question. Thank you.
Yes,
Really
absolutely.
appreciate that. That was Call Your Shot. And that's the show, folks. Man, that was a good one. Yark, thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us, brother.
Now, thank you for having me, man. I love it every time, guys. Anytime you
Appreciate
need
it.
me, I'll grab a drink and join you.
Got
How
to
do
get to
people
a
get a hold
game
of you?
sometime or something, right?
Yeah.
How do people
Red
get a hold of
Sox.
you and update people on where your bed is? Everyone always asks us.
It's a little iffy now. That Vogelbach stuff's it hurts me. That's hurting me a little bit. I need those
The
home runs.
Pirates stole money out of Yark's pocket. That's the news right now.
We'll be okay. James knows what's up.
Jim, how do people get a hold of you, brother?
It's at Jim Stamm 22 or for the city _412 on Twitter. And yeah, it's Pittsburgh all the time. Pirates, Steelers. That's starting to, get cranked up. We got Penguins a couple months away, and Pitt's not far away either. So we'll have some good things to talk about either on air or off air here pretty soon anyway.
Yeah, we're getting pretty close to that sweet spot where all the sports are going on at the same time, and
Yes,
I always love that. So looking forward to it. Man, if we had an NBA team, I don't know when we would sleep, Jim. So
I'm trying to stay on marriage number 2, not go to marriage number 3. So
You ain't the only one, my man.
all right, so if you want to get a hold of me, you can hit me on Twitter at GaryMO2007, or you can follow the show at Pirates Fan Forum. Make sure you follow our channel, Pirates Fan Forum Podcast, anywhere that you listen to podcasts, and you will never miss an episode. And we'll be talking to you later. Ben, take it away, brother.
Yes, your butt.